Hi. Renewal of esteem. That's what this one's going to be called. And renewal of esteem is a seeing of yourself. Seeing of yourself as higher self sees you. And it can be done like that. Because it's true like that. So there's about 4 different elements that flow into the other that I would like to share with you this week. And again, it flows on from all the previous ones and adds to and deepens. So I'll do the diagrams because that will show best as to the patterns that showed up. So many of us wish to leave behind a legacy, something. And you know, a smile or a pet of a dog is a legacy that lives on for eternity. There's a naturalness to it. But there is a presence that feels it has to knock it out of the park to be a legacy. And needless to say, the people who feel this have a sense of profoundness of what life is. So this week had a lot to do with baseline, to be in the baseline of self, because the baseline is extraordinary with all potentialities in it. And what happened here was a desire, and as we've mentioned in other shares, there, if we start from a baseline, it really has a natural, by default, process where that baseline then becomes this baseline, which is no different than exercising your muscles. The muscles that you achieve become the new baseline to build with. Life is exactly the same. And to be at the baseline on a continual basis to see where next it naturally leads. What happened here was that they wanted to knock it out of the park. It's like, when I get to the other side, I want to look back to see that I've achieved something I didn't bring into this world when I arrived. Kind of boggles the mind. And what we ended up seeing was the baseline and where we already are, and nobody who's on planet Earth at this time is a slouch, regardless of what you may think. So here's the baseline, and by default, it way surpasses what that notion is. But this one will burn you out. This one is when you listen to people speak who've done amazing things, it's like, well, I just did the next step. It just made sense to me. And when you have that feeling, obstacles aren't even obstacles. So it started off with this pattern of knowing where you're at and being self in what serves you. There showed up a pattern where this was actually not driven by the being itself, but was driven literally from a higher aspect of self that didn't care whether you burnt out or not. It had this intent. And what we came to is that there are times when we're being driven rather than this natural process of life, that we take these things on and we run with it. And with running with it, it's like taking a spear, and it's like the spirit takes a spear and it sets it down. without realizing it goes right through your foot. You end up shooting yourself in the foot and then needing to continue going, and that too burns one out. It's all in the perspective. So it led to looking at this cup of life that we all have. And this cup of life is filled, it's actually filled with incredible potentialities. What sometimes happens is people get to the bottom of the barrel, and some people rub the bottom of the barrel to such an extent because they feel it isn't there yet. They're not taking the next step. They're kind of waiting for something, and they rub the bottom of the barrel, and they actually then create a hole and drop through the bucket. And once you go through the bucket, you're still looking for the bottom of the barrel, but you've already gone past it. And these beings can become incredibly disillusioned, lost, and have a capacity to want to draw in when they're in that space. It really is Shitsville. And it becomes exciting to look at Shitsville. And to do that, you need companions in there to join you. And what happened that someone who had a session, they weren't in that space, but they had a desire to be kind, to be gentle, to see if I can bring the best, and was in the process of being sucked in by those that want to suck in those who are in a gentle world into this space. And if they don't join that space, they will label them Shitsville because they're not joining the club. And how you can recognize these people is they've attempted to do that with many others who decided not interested, not interested. And you'll see the pattern that people leave them. They do not enjoy spending time with them. In many ways, they just they end up pushing people away. If you're a family member of this pattern, you need to see that pattern of others that really move away. And if this is a club, it's a club that gossips, who actually blames other people for things that aren't working in their life. And they look for drama. They look for things that are unresolvable because there's no getting out of it then. So that's a pattern worth looking at, because this being, in seeing their own esteem and preference of being, and see esteem in that and have a stand in that, to walk away is the esteem choice. So that flowed on to esteem in a very different way. There are situations where great abuse happens, and it happens without any action on your part. So again, it showed the gap. There's all sorts of behaviour in the world, that we tolerate, we enable it, we want it to work out, and which itself is a kind of a quagmire, but you can't get out of it. Then there are those that are just so distorted, that the abuse is such. If esteem is here, the abuse is such that it pulls the beings down. They find it hard to even stand in the place that those things could actually even happen, let alone happen to them. And the dialogue that came out of these processes was, like it has in past sessions, there seems to be a conversation taking place from the higher self that literally pulls one up to remind you, hey, look at who you are. I hold you in such esteem, and I cannot tolerate that you do not see that. There is a process happening at the moment where the Spirit sees the best of who you are. As I mentioned last week, if you're nasty, you'll know it. If you're not, pull yourself into the extraordinary esteem to which an unlimited possibility is there ahead of you. To allow that to pull you down is unconscionable. And difficult as it is to separate oneself from that, beings do. And they have remarkable lives. And they avail themselves to the unlimited potentialities. We are the creators. So what was wonderful here, instead of being dragged down and going, how can people be like this, etc., etc., it came to see, wow, that was not me. It was an act from an other, not my act. And in seeing that it was not their act, they found themselves renewed in the ability to move forward. We can be living in this space and have so much love for another that if we're not loved back in the same way, or if they don't act in the same way of the brilliance that they are, they can drop their own self-esteem for not achieving that from another. And that's when you perpetrate low self-esteem upon yourself. Because rather than seeing yourself in that place, you can in fact become inspirational to others. Call it out, put conditions down. I expect better and I know that's possible. Less than this is not acceptable here. Come on, you have it in you. And be an inspiration, not by shouting, not by punishing. So this inspiration can come from many directions, and the possibilities are unlimited for yourself and for others. So the essence that showed up this week was the Australian bush essence of alpine mint bush. The negative conditions are mental and emotional exhaustion, lack of joy, and weight of responsibility of caregivers or those who care. Positive outcome is revitalization, joy, and renewal. The flower grows in exposed rocky sites in the alpine and subalpine areas of southeastern Australia. This essence works on the mental and emotional levels. It is for people who work in healing, health, administration, and caring situations where there is a great deal of responsibility for other people. And some take responsibility when it's not even asked for. So I would place that in here as well. They give much of themselves, both physically and emotionally, often listening to people in pain and need. These caregivers can be in danger of burning out or becoming disillusioned. They can reach a point of tiredness, feeling their life has lost its joy. Alpine mint bush can revitalize and bring about in these people a renewed enthusiasm and joy in their life for what they do. And that is to see oneself in the esteem as that which is connected to us, sees us as such. There is nowhere to go, it's already there. To just be you in that natural increasing aspect of when self turns up and how that inspires. So the card that was pulled at the beginning of the weekend was inspiration. How fitting. The river of all-knowing allows every possibility to be open to you. Allow yourself to tap into this vastness. Be inspired by the beauty that surrounds you. Be inspired to open yourself to the riches the world has to offer. In any moment, you can allow inspirational thinking to set you free. Which moment will you choose? Much, much love. Catch you next week.